Hey guys, are you looking for a sportsbook that you can trust? Well, look no further than mybookie.ag, where you can get a 50% match on your initial deposit of up to $1,000 when you use promo code DFSArmy. As a bonus, when you use promo code DFSArmy, you also get a free month of DFS Army VIP and DFS Army Beat the Bookie membership. That's a $100 combined value. So we'll help you with your daily fantasy sports and we'll help you with your handicapping. Free when you sign up for mybookie.ag using promo code DFS Army. Hey guys, people always ask me what exactly we do in DFS Army. Basically, if you're someone that likes to play daily fantasy sports, you want to be able to pop in close to lock, get a breakdown of a slate, full set of projections, breaking news, and cheat sheets, player picks, and advice directly from pro players, then DFS Army is the place for you. We function as a team. We help each other out. We have coaching unlike any other service in the industry. And the proof is in the results. Check out our DFSArmy.com wall of wins to see for yourself the massive number of six-figure wins regular DFS Army average Joes have won in just the past year. If you're tired of redepositing all the time, you already like playing on Fanduel and Draftkings, but you want to take your game to the next level, it's time to sign up for DFS Army as a VIP member. Use promo code PODCAST to lock in 20% off the normal monthly rate. That's going to wind up at $39.99, the best deal in the industry. Promo code PODCAST, 20% off, DFSArmy.com, the best deal in the industry. We'll see you in the lobby.
In 2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn Joe into DFS pros.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is your DFS Army Bold Calls NBA DFS podcast for Friday, March 8th, 2019. And yes, it is the day that I have actually been dreading for a while because this is so dreading is probably not the right word to talk about. I always am very, very, very skeptical when it comes to games after the Portland games, mainly because I know they're going to be draining, I know they're going to be taxing, and I know they're going to be close. And so a lot of adrenaline, a lot of energy is actually exerted, especially considering the fact that, we were in a three-way tie with not only Portland, but the Rockets as well for the 3 seed in the West. I know that this show isn't all about me and the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I figured if one of us is going to be in the playoff hunt, I might as well express my concern, and we'll talk about it a lot as we go through the positions of what should be some of the best plays on the board, maybe not being such tonight. So that was one of those things that last night, like I said, I think I went through half a bottle of Tums with the game. It was very, very, very exhausting. And there's a lot of repercussions that are happening throughout that game. And then we turn around and we go down to LA and face the Clippers and Pat Beverly tonight. So it's not fun.
I mean, it's what championship teams need to do. Every team does it. Every team goes through back-to-backs. Every team fights, to move up in the rankings. With like maybe one exception over the last 3 years. So, I mean, if it's a loss, it's a loss. But at the same time, I'm not. So here's what I come to find. Russell Westbrook is not human.
You think?
Because, so for example, the day of the live finals, right? They were on a back-to-back. And the night before, George played a bazillion minutes like they did last night. Last night was overtime. I think the night before the live finals, it was
double.
Overtime?
I think it was double overtime that night.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh man, this is tough, blah, blah, blah. George, you could visibly see George was feeling that game. Whereas Westbrook just did not get like he had a week off. He just didn't, the guy just doesn't stop. So, but the flip side to that is, well, he's got, Patrick Beverley tonight too. So it's just something to think about. I mean, I still think there's way too much gold in that game to completely pass on, but I'm definitely going to have to think twice just given the overtime last night.
Yeah, and not only that, but you got to add in the history between Russ and Bev. He's going to bring it. He's going to come with added energy tonight. Not like he needs it. He's like the freaking Energizer Bunny on crack. It's one of those. It's one of those situations where you're sitting there looking at it and you're like, he's been playing very, very, very well. Russ has. We'll talk about Paul George here in a little bit. He didn't have a great fantasy night last night, but that was because he only had 3 assists. A lot of the actual shots or passes that he normally gets, we're kind of going through Steven Adams, Jeremy Grant's hands, and he doesn't have that kind of rapport with Markieff Morris yet to kind of work the pick and roll on that aspect. He doesn't, even though Nerlens is a really good around the rim, I kind of look at him a little bit as an Enes Kanter type, a light, younger, more springy and athletic Enes Kanter, because let's just be real. Enes Kanter makes the athletic part of basketball look very, very, very awkward sometimes. Very skilled, don't get me wrong, but very awkward. So he didn't have a lot of assists. But he also had 8 turnovers. Now, some of those turnovers were contributed to basically passes going through Grant and Adams' hands. I think there were 2 times. One of them was, down towards the end of regulation, but that he dribbled the ball basically off his foot. So you take those 4, maybe 5 away, and you can add 4 or 5 Fanduel points to it. He's up to 46. Still not a great game considering, but it was a very, very efficient game. He shot 50% from the field. He hit 5 3-pointers last night. It was, he shot the ball 28 times. And if I'm looking right, he only went to the free throw line 6 times. Like, that's not normal, especially considering how tight they were calling the game last night. So, just a little bit of my thoughts there. We'll talk about Russ here. Let's just kind of go right into it here.
Yeah. So here's the thing to note for those of you that are like myself, and you're looking at stats, and you're looking at matchups, you're looking at all that stuff. You're going to see that the point guard position for the Clippers is not very great. Well, there's a few reasons to that, and I want you to be a little bit cautious. First of all, they start Gilgeous-Alexander at the point guard. So technically, whomever the opposing point guard is gets 20-ish minutes being defended by Gilgeous. So that's the first thing I want to bring up. That's very – take a look at some more details here. That's very matchup dependent. So for teams that have a ball dominant star point guard like the Thunder do, you can pretty much bet that Beverly will start out on him from the minute the game tips off.
Well, you could also add into the fact that, since that history there, I mean, Beverly takes it as a personal, challenge to basically do everything he can in his unforeseen nature, unsuperhuman-like powers to shut down Russ and get under his skin, which we know is what Beverly does. But yeah, like there's a okay, so here's the thing with Russ. I've got to look here. Russell Russ. I'm not worried about him. I've got to look and see exactly how he's fared against him, especially this year. Fanduel game log. Okay, so he's put up basically a 57 and a 55 the two previous matchups.
Yeah, that's about what I would expect today.
Yeah, and one of those he did while shooting 23% from the field and only putting up 13 real life points. So, like,
and my feeling is, given the matchup, given the overtime game last night, that you're not going to see him at 40% like we did yesterday, or 50% or whatever it was.
Oh no, especially with nine games on the slate, and you've got Ben Simmons, Steph Curry,
Kemba
all these
Walker.
other guys, all these other guys that we're about to talk about here. So
let's do that, shall we?
Yeah, as long as like my webpage actually picks up. Go ahead and talk about him, because evidently what I use the DS to kind of go through positions, and it's frozen evidently.
Yeah. No
there
worries.
It goes.
So so we talked about some names you brought up, and Fanduel wise, the second highest point guard is going to be Ben Simmons. So Ben Simmons, this is a really big game, I think, for both teams, because now we're at a point where like every single game is all about positioning, and in terms of conference and playoffs, etc. So what I'm seeing here is that I don't envision Chris Paul defending Ben Simmons. Just again, we say it every time that the Sixers are on the slate. He's just a matchup nightmare, because he's really tall and he's the point guard. And most point guards are not nearly as tall as he is. So
I don't see him chasing JJ Redick around the court though either for 30 minutes.
Paul?
Yeah.
No, I don't. He's not. But my point here is, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know who's going to guard him.
Yeah, because I don't either.
It's going to be. I mean, they'll certainly, put Paul on him to begin with, but I'm not sure that it lasts. I think you'll probably see, because you're probably going to see Tucker on Tobias.
So good luck with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of good luck stuff. Right? I mean, it's going to be a difficult matchup for both teams, by the way, not just for one side. Because the way we have it right now, we've got Gordon guarding Butler, which is, again, good luck with that. But we could definitely see them going a little bit of a smaller style tonight too, which means, here's my whole point in all this, which means a lot of fantasy points. So, I think this game can certainly go small. They're not going to not play Capella, because I think they have a matchup advantage with Capella.
Yeah, especially with the beat out.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, Amir Johnson's not going to. He's just not going to keep up with Capella.
No, I think you're going to see a lot of Johan Bolden and
Jonah.
Not Johan. Jonah Bolden, and probably I mean, Jonah Bolden's the only one that I can see actually being able to kind of at least keep up with Capella a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't see, like, Mike Scott can't.
No, but so what they did last time was they played
Nene might. No,
wrong team.
Yeah, sorry.
They played Patton, I think was his name. I don't know too much. Too much. Yeah, I don't know too much about him, but he played. I mean, he didn't do that great. He didn't play that much because that was a game where he balled out. a different animal. I mean, we've got to see. We got to see.
Yeah, I actually. You're gonna. Okay, so is Ben Simmons your number 2 at the position behind Russ?
Mm-mm.
Okay, who's your number 2?
So I've got to preface it with depending on the game.
Okay, let me.
Right.
Who's your number 2 out of these 4? Russ, Kemba, Ben, Curry.
I actually really like Kemba and Curry both. So a couple things about. So I actually want to target a fair amount of this Washington-Charlotte game.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason is.
Can I stop you for just a second and ask you one quick question in regarding to what you just said?
Yeah.
Because it refers to Ben Simmons. Because of the fact that Ben Simmons is now 10-6 on FanDuel. And I'm trying to look up his DK price here real quick. And because of the fact that Kemba's 9K going against Washington and Steph is 91 going against Denver in the Hammer game. Do you think that out of these 4, Ben Simmons is actually the lowest owned? And the perception of Chris Paul defense?
I don't know, because given here's what I see every time Ben Simmons has been brought up in the last week. Oh, there's no Embiid. You got to play him. I mean, people just tend to just lock him. Not to the extent of James Harden without Chris Paul, but, James Harden was like 14K or whatever he was.
Yeah.
And people still played him, which myself included. It's hard to avoid an 80 in your lineup.
Exactly.
But I mean, as far as I don't think so. Maybe lower than those 2, yes, but I don't think we're going to see him in single digits.
Okay. See, the way that we've got our early ownership projections out right now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys over 10% and nobody's over 18%. And they're all kind of split up between that, 14% or 12% to 17% range. I think for me, depending on how the flow goes of the day and how much pump he gets, it's either going to be a play him on FanDuel because of the lower ownership and try to get lucky, or not lucky, but try to leverage the field, or I'm fading him completely on FanDuel and playing him all over the place on DraftKings where he's 9,100.
Yeah, I could see that. 9,100 is a much easier number to stomach.
Because I didn't know what your thoughts were on the ownership on that one. That's why I was asking. Okay, go to Kemba Walker. Sorry, we'll keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, I know they're not the same player, but we just saw what Luke just did to Washington. We just saw. I've been watching it all year. Frankly, with or without Wall, but obviously Wall's not there, hasn't been there for a while. Excuse me. Out of all the teams that are playing today, over the last 2 weeks, Washington. So there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 teams, right? Washington is 8th defending the point guard. And they're really close to, right above them. So Charlotte is in a position now where they absolutely have got to win. They need to win every game that they play. They don't have a choice. They're trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're tied with the Magic right now, and they're a game out of that 8th seed, right behind the Miami Heat.
And this team has been giving up points. This team being Washington, all over the place. So, are there any exceptions? Yeah, they've been pretty good at the small forward. That's been Trevor Ariza. And they've been pretty good, believe it or not, at the power forward. Actually, no, Ariza plays the 4 now. Jeff Green. So Jeff Green and Ariza have been playing good defense. Besides those two, believe it or not, even Beal isn't playing great D, but and he'll probably end up seeing a decent amount of either Batum or Lamb. So just not to get sidetracked here. So I think, in terms of a matchup, he's got the best matchup on the board. I like the game a lot. Like I said, there's a really nice total in the game. Charlotte's favored to win by just under 5 points. And we all know that in Charlotte's wins, it's Kemba, right? I mean, he has help, but it's mainly Kemba.
Right.
So that's where I'm looking today.
Yeah, I think he's my number 2 guy too as well. Kind of just, out of those 4 anyway, kind of just backtrack or not backtrack, back up what you just said. Let's talk about Steph Curry here real quick because he's going against Denver. Is this the night? Klay Thompson is probable, so that's going to help out the Warriors floor spacing a little bit. I am waiting to hear on word exactly what the status of Andrew Bogut is. I've got a tweet out to Anthony Slater. I doubt he responds, but you never know.
So who is Bogut going to affect?
Bogut's going to affect a lot of things because what that's going to actually do is I actually like if Bogut plays and is active, obviously that hits Boogie the hardest, but it's going to help Draymond and it's going to help Steph and Klay, I think. I think with Durant, it doesn't really matter, but with Steph and Klay, it takes the first unit shot selection down from 4 to 3.
Yeah. And
maybe you can add Draymond in there as a 3.5, but it allows, now the Warriors are so good with everything and Bogut's going to be a seamless fit back into that system. But like Bogut isn't going to determine whether or not I play these Warrior guys, but he is going to determine on how much exposure I actually do have to them. I don't know if I trust Klay's knee yet. I have not seen any video of him running around at shoot around yet. I'm waiting for that to come out. It's probably going to come out here in about an hour or two. I want to know, obviously, Bogut's going to affect some of the nugget interest I have, but it's
the reality is even when he returns, I don't see him getting on the court today. And just because you also have Looney coming back today,
but I think Looney can play that backup 4.
Well, he can, but I don't envision them playing Looney and Bogut on the court together.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I think like they can pair up Bogut and Draymond, and then they can pair up Boogie and Looney.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, Steve Kerr's the master of putting out rotations that are so creative and make a ton of sense, and we're not even thinking of. So we're gonna have to watch it. But
yeah,
I mean, I do like Steph tonight. I do think, like, especially after the way that they've been talking the last couple days, and Steve Kerr kind of challenged him yesterday at practice, saying that this is the last year in Oracle. We're coming down to the final games.
Yeah, I know it's hard to avoid
playoffs.
It's hard to avoid it.
He's challenging them to put on a show. So I think they come out fired up and jacked up, especially with Denver coming in now. Granted, how big the game was last night between OKC and Portland, this game between Denver and Golden State is just as big, because if Denver ends up winning, they're tied for the 1 seed.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, just to tack on to the Klay coming back part, this makes it so much better for Steph. What teams were doing when Klay was out is they were actually able to send the proper double teams off of McKinney or Damian Lee or whomever else it was, because they didn't have to worry about helping off of Klay and getting, screwed every single time they do that. And so you could see defenses were actually able to focus on Steph, and even on Durant. I mean, the both of them. When you've got 2 automatic guys you have to worry about versus 3, it changes the whole game around.
Yep.
So now Klay is there. Now they can help off of Clay to go double team Steph. They can't do that anymore, or they can't, jump out on Steph when he gets screened and not worry about the roller or the guy who pops out, which is McKinney or Lee, who they're just not worried about. Now that's Klay Thompson, so you have to worry about it. So that's why I like, we've got the chalk cheap point guard we'll talk about here in a minute, but I'm gonna have some lineups with both Steph in it and Kemba as well. I think you can both hit over 55 tonight. So
yep.
That's what I'm looking at.
All right, let's talk about some of these value guys as we move along here. We're kind of on a time crunch, and as always, we spend way too much time on point guards because they obviously handle the ball. Drew Holiday is going to be out for the next 5 to 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously gives a little bit of a bump to Elfrid Payton. It also gives a bump to one Mr. Frank Jackson. Mainly you, but I loved it the other day too because of the narrative and everything that was happening. We actually suggested Frank Jackson for tournaments the other night. A low-owned, low exposure if you're making multiple lineups type of shot. If you played him in cash, then you really don't understand exactly what we suggested him for. I saw somebody kind of groaning because they played him in cash. Tonight is the night you play him in cash. He's 3,700 on FanDuel. He's going to play 30 minutes. I know it's a tougher matchup, but like on FanDuel, you have the ability to have him as a drop.
That's exactly what he is. He's a drop scorer with
I don't think he is a
decent
drop
upside with good upside. But hang on. I'm talking about in cash games. Now in tournaments,
okay, gotcha.
In tournaments, you play him as a non-drop scorer with a second drop scorer, and then you play all the other studs that you want to play.
Right.
That's how you handle tournaments.
He's 3,200 on DK. So now I will say this.
That's hard to pass.
Yeah, it really is. I will say this. Beware of one Ian Clark. Okay, say you're throwing out 100 lineups tonight on DraftKings. Okay, and this is the only place I would do it because they're the exact same position eligibility on DraftKings.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm throwing out 100 lineups on DraftKings, which I am, okay, I'm going to have probably 5 to 10 lineups with Ian Clark in case Frank Jackson just doesn't perform and they throw Elf out at the 1 and Clark out at the 2.
I can see it. I really can.
So make no mistake about it. He's not a slam dunk. This isn't a lock situation for Frank Jackson. But what it is somebody that we're projecting to be very, very highly owned on FanDuel. And if everything flows right, he can easily hit 6x for your cash games. And if it really goes right, he can go, what do you say, 8x for tournaments?
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, for example, like I play, as you know, in some pretty high dollar stuff. And like, I'm even going to play Frank Jackson there. Like, if I'm playing, one, 888 entry or whatever it is, I'm not going to play Ian Clark. But
right. No. This is that. Yeah, that's a multiple lineup.
But if I'm doing
situation.
like 50, 100 lineups into a larger type of thing, then yeah, I want about 10% because it's very realistic that can happen. And somebody will have the balls to play Ian Clark in the Monster 888, and he'll go off for 50, and he'll win a lot of money. But that person probably also plays 5-6 lineups in that tournament. I'm only going to have one. So
yep. All right. So. Let's move on. There's a bunch of other point guard is actually a very, very deep position today, but we don't have time to go through them all. Let's go on to shooting guards here. James Harden at 12K. Going to see a lot of people. Honestly, he's going to see some JJ. He's going to see some.
We're going to see more Butler,
Simmons.
I think, than JJ.
He's going to see some Butler.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's mainly going to be Butler. I will say that.
Yeah.
But it is Harden. Now he is 12K, but
I mean, just think about it. It's going to be Redick and Gordon. and then Butler and Harden.
Okay,
right?
yeah, I can see that. Like, I don't have like. It's not that I don't like Harden. It's not that I don't think he can't get his. I just don't have a lot of them in my early builds.
Yeah, I don't. That's not where I want to spend my 12K.
So, 10-5 on Bradley Beal. If you want to kind of game stack a game and throw him in a couple lineups with Kemba, he's not a bad option.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Obviously, he's the best player on the Wizards as far as an offensive threat. Like, I think, like, I don't want to say this game is sneaky because it's got a 233 total, but
ownership wise, I think it will be.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I think it is going to be sneaky ownership wise, because everybody's going to kind of flow to these later games.
Absolutely.
This is a great night for an after hours lineup build hammer slate. You know, like I could legit see me basically like marking 4 games out and making this a 5-game slate for me.
I don't hate that idea. Certainly Cleveland, Miami is one of those. I think Utah, Memphis is probably outside of.
I was talking about Houston, Philly, New Orleans, Toronto, OKC, Clippers, Golden State, Denver, and Charlotte.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about games to uncheck.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm checking those games, and yeah, I can see the same. I do have. We'll talk about it here in a minute. So let's just move on to shooting guard. So Bradley Beal, I definitely like it in stacks. You know, I almost think. I prefer Luka just because of what he's been doing, but I think it's a little bit of a riskier play because the Mavs have no reason to win right now. Now, they're still not going to be very open about their tanking, but I don't.
I've seen some of the moves that Carlisle's made at the end of the
game. Yeah.
Like, especially if the game's close. And if I'm not mistaken, Orlando is shooting for a playoff spot. Like, they're the 9 seed right now. They're tied with Charlotte. They're a game out. They want to make the playoffs because they haven't been in the playoffs for a couple years now. And it'll kind of build their fan base back, and like there's incentive there for the Magic to actually make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely there is.
I don't know if I can play Luka on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's
9,800. It's not that the price is; it's just that I like a lot of other people at the position.
Yeah, it's stacked once again. I mean, guards, point guards, shooting guards, they're just stacked. I mean, so here's the thing. The Jazz are going to have no active point guards, right? Is Exum out?
Double checking right now.
I know Neto is.
Yeah, I know Neto was. I know Rubio was out.
So Neto is out.
Rubio's doubtful. Neto's out. There's nothing on Exum.
I think he's just been out for a while, so it's just known that he's out. Okay. So Utah's out of point guards. So what tends to happen is Donovan Mitchell becomes the point guard. Now, from a usage perspective, from a upside perspective, it's all there. Here's the problem. They play Memphis. And you look at Memphis like Memphis is a bad team. Yes, record-wise. But they've got 2 of the stronger defensive, guards in that backcourt in the league, with Conley and Avery Bradley. And we've seen that, let me see. Yeah, I mean, Memphis at point guard, I mean, bright red at both point guard and shooting guard, and center, by the way. So it's not a very easy matchup. If anything, I might look at some Joe Ingles here, but it's rough.
Yeah, here's my I'm gonna have, if he turns out to be chalk at the position, I'm probably gonna fade. I'll take my chances at that.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to be, mid-range to lower ownership, I'll probably try to match the field a little bit. But
I don't see how he's not 50% given he's the point guard now.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be 50%.
I mean, high 30s at least.
Oh, yeah. Like, he's got to be over 25% for me to fade.
Well, in 9 games, I think that's what you're going to see.
Yeah. Like,
just given that he's under 9K. I mean, he's the cheapest stud shooting guard, right? Harden, Beal, Doncic. He's like 900 cheaper than Doncic.
Yeah, but you've got Jimmy Butler right there at 82.
Who hasn't really produced. If anything, I'm looking at Zach LaVine. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Versus Detroit, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I still think he's going to be in the 30s, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So I actually really, really like Lou Williams. I've stated this before that it doesn't matter what uniform, he absolutely crushes us. Maybe not to the point of a Damian Lillard, but like you can go back and he's had some absolutely just like phenomenal games against
monster games.
So I do like Lou Williams.
What are they on? 2 days rest right now too?
I think so, yeah.
Whereas the Thunder just played, so
yeah. I do like Lou Williams. I do think that you see a little bit more Deontay Burton on him a little bit to try to muscle him a little bit more, but Lou is so good that he's going to be able to fight through that a little bit. I mean, we saw what we know what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lamb is another good option. I don't know what I'm going to do with Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, I mean, we also got to see what's with Dragic because that'll take away from some of the usage there in that second unit. But yeah, he's right at that price where he's damn near high value. So it's tough. It's tough.
What are we doing with the combination of Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross?
That's always the question, man. I mean, I like Ross here a lot, just considering he's $800 cheaper. So, when I'm looking at the combination, I can legitimately play them both. I have no problem with that. If I'm choosing one, I'm typically going with the cheaper one. That's, where I like to go. So, yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, you can play Lamb and Kemba because Lamb will come in with the second unit now that they've been starting Nick Batum at the 2. Stuco Mama. Let's see here. Avery Bradley, I don't mind. 6,100 is a little bit steep to pay on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, he is 4,700. So that's probably where I would play him. If he is out or we get word that he's limited, and even it might not even matter if he's out or limited, Delon Wright is another option. He's been he's been shooting the ball better than I've ever seen him shoot the ball in his career.
He's been stellar.
So, all right, let's move on to small forwards here. Paul George. I know you said that the last time that he was kind of huffing and puffing, coming off that double overtime game, going into the live final and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And I was doing some research and I was looking at it and I was kind of I was kind of reading exactly what this injury to his shoulder is and how he's been dealing with it and everything like that. And evidently he's been trying to prevent it all season, knowing the role and the type of games that he was going to be playing. It's a rotator cuff thing. And the question is whether or not those muscles get firing, which is why you see the kinese tape on.
Sure.
But he said that it hurts the most when you're extending to finish a shot. Now, I'm not a shooter. Full honesty here. I think Rajon Rondo has a better looking jumper than I do. I know Lonzo Ball does. I can pass, I can dish, I can dribble, but I can't shoot.
Nice.
But I do know from having a shoulder injury, when you try to extend and like finish something athletically, trying to do this with your shoulder, it's not the actual motion of getting to that point that hurts. It's when the tension is released and the muscle relaxes when you start to feel most of the pain, typically most of the time, especially in a rotator cuff. Okay. He shot 30% from the field last night. You go the night before, his second game back, I want to say.
Okay.
Against Minnesota. His first game back against Minnesota. He shot 32%. Now, I will say this. Paul George is not going to shoot around 30 to 32% for the rest of the season. However, I'm willing at 10-7 on the back end of a back-to-back to fade Paul George tonight because of the fact that I don't think that he's fully healthy yet. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't shoot free throws. He got to the line 20 times last night. That's how he ended up scoring his 32 points.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you shoot 30% from the field and only one three-pointer, like he still took them. He just only made one. I think the upside's a little limited here.
It is. I mean, it certainly is.
Or the odds of the upside are limited. I'm not saying that he can't score 60 more points, fantasy points tonight, but I don't think he's going to have the same success last night as he did last night, or tonight as he did last night. What I'm trying to say.
No, I don't either. So I agree with you there.
And it has nothing to do with the defensive matchup or anything like that. I just, and to be honest, and I don't want to put this out, but
I'm listening.
Because there's been no word of it, and he doesn't need to, because I feel like he needs to play through it. To be honest, I would not be shocked if he sits tonight.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same earlier on, and all that's going to do is put Westbrook chalk out there, but it is what it is.
Like, and for me to call a full fade on a guy that I think is the MVP of the league, because of what he does on both sides of the ball, that's saying something, because it just does not look right now with Paul George.
Yeah.
Especially at his price tag.
Yeah.
So, Kawhi
Leonard.
Leonard.
I was going to ask you about him. Do we have any word on Kawhi? He's 100% in, or?
Do they play tomorrow? There are 6 games tomorrow. Looking right now.
Am I? No.
Okay,
they don't.
So I would say that he's in probably.
Okay.
I haven't got word about on it, and he's not on an injury report, so I would say so.
Yeah.
This one's tough because I don't know how this game stays close in the second half. I don't like predicting blowouts. I hate it, in fact. I will have some Kawhi, but I don't like him as much because of the fact that Drew's going to be out.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know that this game is going to be close. I just got to put it out there. It's going to be, I mean, it's going to be tough. So, Toronto's only favored by 7.5.
Which is odd to me.
It's very odd. Yeah, I know.
With Drew out and AD limited.
That's the reason why I asked about Kawhi, because I'm looking at the spread. I'm like, is he going to be out? I mean, I don't know. Something doesn't add up.
Gonna have to watch that line throughout the day.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Kevin Durant. He basically told or contradicted the words of Steve Kerr and said that they needed to play with more joy. After Steve Kerr basically said they needed to play with more focus and intensity. He's got a great matchup. He's got a fantastic matchup. He's going to get Will Barton for most of the game. He's going to get some Paul Millsap. Probably going to get some Gary Harris, but there's an advantage there with the height.
There is, but let me just tell you how much I love Gary Harris tonight, by the way. Let me just put that out there. I love Gary Harris even more than Will Barton tonight, but we'll get to that in a minute. So who would be your top? Let's assuming everything that we know now, right? No like crazy news. Who's your top small forward?
I mean, honestly.
Yes, honestly.
I don't have one. I like Gallo a little bit, because he always seems to kill us along with Lou. I like the pairing there. I like Nicholas Batum at the 2 against Washington and Bradley Beal. I do have some interest in Will Barton and Gary Harris in that game. Maybe Kenrick Williams in there. Royce O'Neal's going to pop in optimizers all over the freaking globe because he's min price and he's probably going to start.
He should. Yeah, he definitely should.
So he's going to be chalky. I just don't know if there's a favorite for me today. I'm going to have a lot of different combinations and mix it up. So because of the uncertainty at the top, it's like because I could legit see Kevin Durant being the highest point getter at the position. I could also see it being Kawhi. If Paul George ends up playing, you can't rule him out. Yeah. But I could also see George sitting, Kawhi not needed much in the fourth, Kevin Durant or Clay and Steph and, kind of taking over that game, and Kevin Durant only getting 45 to 50. And I could see a guy like Otto Porter or Gallinari or, somebody coming out of the woodworks and being the highest scorer. So I don't know. It's I haven't got a good grasp on this position quite yet.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's a tough one.
So
it's a tough one.
All right, talk to me about Gary Harris because I don't know if I can play him without playing more than 30 minutes.
Well, I mean, we saw the other night in a game that for certain stretches wasn't even that close, and he played. What did he play? Versus the Lakers.
He played 30 minutes.
Played 30 minutes. So I mean, and they had a day off, right? And like you said, this is a really important game. So I think they're going to start ramping him up now, and he's under 5K, dude. In a really nice tempo game. I want exposure to that.
Yeah, so, I just saw the fact that he's played, he's been playing 26 to 30 minutes. He shot 8 from 11 from the field, so his shot looks like it's coming back. 2 or 4 from 3. Added some rebounds, some assists, so he performed pretty nice. Had 19 points. He's 4K on DraftKings. I can't argue with him being almost a core play over there. I do like Will Barton. I don't know if I can pair them up in the same lineup.
I mean, I think there'll be enough points for you to be able to do that.
I'm not
a little riskier, though.
Doubting that. I just, because you've got Malik Beasley, because you've got Jamal Murray, because you got Jokic, because you got Millsap, because you got Plumlee. This is a deep team, and I don't know how many of the pairings on the wings that I want. I don't know if I want to pair up, a Jamal Murray and a Gary Harris. I don't, if I do pair up a Nugget with Gary Harris, I think it's going to be like a Jokic or Millsap.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about Millsap. I mean, the matchup's certainly going to be rough with Draymond, but again, we kind of know how they've been performing with Boogie defensively. So
yeah.
Either way, I mean, I think the Harris Jokic combo is pretty solid.
Yep. All right, let's talk about
Excuse me.
let's talk about Blake Griffin and the fact that he's 8,500 on FanDuel now. I just have to do this. Good job, FanDuel. You screwed this one up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is that he's underperformed consistently here lately. But the thing that's strange about it is that he still had the ownership. He was versus the Wolves the other night. He was pretty much 30%, but yet his price is still 8,500. So I'm okay with it. I don't. I think it's. You always want to play against the Bulls, and you want to play Bulls when they're on the slate. So I'm fine with it. I think I may like a little more Lauri Markkanen, particularly for tournaments tonight. But one of the rules I have is when Blake Griffin's on the slate, I typically like to play the power forward that's playing against him. But Detroit's been playing some really good ball.
Yeah,
They've been playing some really good defense, as has Chicago. They've both been playing really good ball. And I don't know if I can stomach the matchup, particularly for Blake, given his history. I mean, there are a couple of other Pistons that I like to play, namely Andre Drummond here, but yeah, I don't know if I can do it.
Okay, so let me tell you why I like Blake Griffin. Okay. Since the All-Star break, okay, he's had one game over 40 fantasy points.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to look at that and they're going to be like 8,500 for a guy that's averaging 34 to 37 fantasy points. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know how highly owned he's going to be. Especially with Kevin Love coming off of a big performance. Lauri Markkanen's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal Siakam. I mean, Montrezl Harrell. Like Jeremy, there's a lot of options at this position today, and I think I can I like there's a bounce back game coming. I Definitely. Know there is.
Absolutely,
there's going to be a game where Blake goes nuts. Now Absolutely. I will back this up and say I will have some Andre Drummond in order to counter that in case it becomes another Drummond game. But I love Blake for tournaments because he can legit go for 60 in this matchup. And I think he's going to be lower owned than what he probably should be just because of the recent history.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
So, Kevin Love, are you chasing or no against Miami?
I'm not chasing. Not against Miami, I'm not. No.
All righty. Pascal Siakam. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, man. I can't seem to get off it either. And obviously if we hear Kawhi's out, then you just lock him in. But even with Kawhi, I mean, that floor is really enticing to me. Yeah. So hard to say no to.
And I don't know who's going to start. I'm going to have to look at it. Anthony Davis is 7,400. He's going to play 21 minutes. Guys, don't.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you're making 100 lineups, sure, throw him in 10. I'm on FanDuel.
Kind of feels stupid, man.
Actually, it would mean more on DraftKings because he's 6,600 rather than 74.
Yeah, I can see that. The guy you can get 50 from for that price, I can see that.
But I think only because he's going to be low owned. Like if he was going to be chalkier, because people are trying to, get sneaky, then fade him. But he's going to be low owned. He's going to be under 10%. He's a deep tournament. Like you've got to be building a lot of lineups for me to even get close to suggest rostering him because Montrezl Harrell is going to play close to 30 minutes in an up-tempo game, and he's $200 cheaper.
Yeah, I mean Trez is tough. Siakam is tough. Those are all tough spots to pass on. So.
Yep. I do have a little bit of interest in Jeremy Grant tonight after his letdown kind of last night. He got into foul trouble. Markieff Morris, a lot of the bigs got into foul trouble. Markieff Morris was playing well, so they kind of rid the hot hand a little bit. I think he's viable again tonight. I also think Markieff Morris is viable as a drop scorer. You chasing Kelly Olynyk against Cleveland?
No. No. You see his price?
Yeah, I have.
I'm not paying that. You can get Millsap for $300 more. You can get Bobby Portis versus Charlotte for $100 more.
Right.
You can get Jeremy Grant for $800 less versus the Clippers up tempo. I mean, there's just Dwight Powell $7,400 now.
Yeah,
they woke up on that one, didn't they? But
yeah, and he's also shooting like 80% from the field over the last 4 games.
Yeah,
so that's
sure.
going to come crashing down.
Which, by the way, they're mostly dunks and layups. But yeah,
but that's going to come crashing down.
So we got to talk about another guy here that we missed. At the very top.
Oh, I skipped him on purpose.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I skipped him on purpose.
Tonight, tournaments, who's your top power forward?
I think it's Blake.
Wow.
Now, I don't think he's going to be my highest exposed guy, but right now I have about 30% of Blake on Fanduel.
Wow.
I do have Jeremy Grant higher because it's just because of the way the Bills are going.
Yeah, price. I get it.
You know, but I do like Tobias. I love a lot of them here. But as far as like tournaments with ownership, and I think with the upside, it's close between him and Siakam. But I think it's Blake because I think Siakam's going to be higher owned.
It's possible. I'm going Siakam myself, but I think Slate may have just changed. So Ben Simmons is not questionable.
Son of a.
We shall see.
We're about to get TJ McConnell chalk 9.
Yeah, TJ and Frank.
So, all right, let's move to centers here. Because we've got about 5 minutes before we got to get out. We always do this, but it's fine. Drummond at 10K, I don't mind. Capella, I think, is way too cheap for the upside.
Way too cheap, particularly versus Philly, particularly with no Embiid. By the way, I think that's why you're going to see him skyrocket in ownership. And I'm looking at a direct pivot to Steven Adams, considering the opponent.
Okay,
considering the opponent.
I can see that.
Yeah. Or I
had to think for a little bit.
Even Yoval is an option.
Yeah, I don't mind that either.
Dude, Utah has it's crazy because they had the defensive player of the year almost, and
he's not this year.
No, he's not. But he's that caliber of a player, and they're bleeding points to the center. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Okay, so I like all 3 of the guys over 10K. If you had to go favorites, it would probably be Drummond, Jokic, Vooch. I'm not playing Boogie if Bogut's active. If I might not play Boogie anyways.
I wouldn't either. Yeah, I don't know that he can stay on the court with Jokic. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know if he can defend him.
I don't know if anybody outside of, and it's not saying that Bogut is this like all world defender, but Bogut's gonna make Jokic's life a little bit tougher.
A tad.
A little, yeah, like a minute a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here looking at $1,200 less for Clint Capella, and like,
it's hard to pass, man. But I think I'm gonna have to roll Drummond.
Yeah, I mean,
Chicago is not the worst, but they're pretty damn close.
Yeah, and I'm not pairing Blake and Drummond together.
I don't hate that, by the way. I don't hate that, but yeah, it's one of those where if you're playing a ton of lineups, yes.
Yeah, it's, I'm not chasing Hassan Whiteside against Cleveland. I know it's a good matchup and everything, but I'm just not doing it.
I'm out. Let's talk about him.
Have to.
Yeah, because he's been putting up legitimate numbers. We have to talk about him.
All right, go ahead.
Robin Lopez versus Detroit. he's been having probably one of the better stretches of his career, fantasy wise and real. I mean, just he's been playing really well.
Because he's been getting minutes. They stopped jerking him around.
Yeah, of course.
And that's a big part. He's performing.
I mean, he's still under 6K. You talk about underpriced. Like, if this continues, which we don't have too much left in the season, but if this continues, like he'll get just under 7K at some point. So
I think if he keeps doing this, I think he'll go over 7K.
Yeah. So you're looking at a guy that you can now get
at a discount.
Cheap, at a discount, who, if you just look at the defensive matchups, I know they have Big Bad Drummond there, but that's not their strongest suit defensively. It's actually their weakest one. I mean, they're pretty solid here the last couple of weeks across the board, but their weakest by far is center. So that leaves Robert Lopez in a pretty good spot there.
Yeah. And I like him a little bit better than Noah. I do think Cody Zeller's viable as well.
Yeah, so do I.
But I don't think any of those guys are going to have a lot of ownership at all. So
no, they're not, and they do have the ability to put up 50s. At least Zeller does. At least.
What are you doing with Mason Plumlee, who's 4,300 now against Golden State?
It's tough. I mean, I don't realistically see him playing enough minutes.
I got him at 20
to win a tournament. I mean, I can certainly see it in terms of hitting value, sure. But unless we talk about an injury or foul trouble or any other circumstances, I don't know that I can play Plumlee behind Jokic.
Yeah, and I do think that on DK, I do think on DK, Frank Kaminsky is viable as well.
Yeah, he's skyrocketed in price, which he should on FanDuel. He's, what is he, 44 now?
Yeah, he's 39 on DK.
So DK is more viable for sure.
So,
any other centers you like down here at the bottom? Because I have one that no, I can't even play him. He's too expensive now. So yeah, that's all I got there.
Yep. So, alrighty, guys, that's gonna do it for us today. Make sure you check out all of our stuff that we've got going on. The sim model will be up shortly. You've got a lot of we got coaches today, we got articles, we got sim models, DS, all of it's good to go. So for myself, for Bear, for the DFS Army, peace out.